Okay, I'm ready to click the go live button. All right then. Hello everyone, my name is Michael Gibson. I hope you're doing well tonight, working out those go live features still. Nothing to do with inept, it's just this is a very temperamental platform. When you're going from Zoom, which is our back office, to, of course, YouTube, there's a few exchanges and APIs that must occur. Anyway, welcome back tonight. This is session 16 with Bobbi. We're coming up with. I just want to first make a few announcements. We're not traditional therapists by no stretch of the imagination. We're not diagnosing people, nor are we providing any kind of pharmaceuticals. However, we have a different interviewing process than most. We deal mainly in truth, but also in the extraction of that truth. It's a process. Look forward to seeing you guys sign up on our websites to get more information, as well as take an opportunity to take a look at the rest of our videos that we have on our YouTube channel. And we'll start doing the same videos here soon on LinkedIn, as well as Facebook and any other, I think, TikTok and Reels, Instagram Reels. So we're going to be doing that here coming up shortly. I thank you all for your participation and your following. Ask any question you want. And in my ear, I have one of our almost 100 volunteers, full-time and part-time people who work for us a year round in my ear, and they're always telling me what you guys are saying in the chat because I'm not able to see it. We're going to call Bobbi in now and talk with Bobbi for a while. Hi, Bobbi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm
Oh,
good. I'm well.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, listen, I'm sitting here enjoying my coffee, and I need to ask you one question. Do you have coffee?
I do.
Now we're on the same footing. Okay, now, how was your day?
It was very eventful.
Tell us about it.
Um, so I started off this morning with my granddaughter. That yesterday was her sweet 16th. So we rented not a U-Haul, shit. Um, like a union hall.
Mhm.
And, so her little
You call it
friends,
Union Hall. There you go. Talk about a play on words. Go ahead.
yeah, because I've got moving and all kinds of stuff going on up here. So they had fun. She's broken records for varsity basketball as a freshman, and she deserved a sweet 16, something that I didn't get a chance to give any of my older daughters. So I kind of put a little more effort into making sure that she had a nice time.
It is so
Uh,
sweet.
in between that, shout out to my neighbors on Neighborly because they did her a birthday cake with her prom picture. I mean, not her prom, yeah, her prom homecoming picture on it,
Okay.
for free because of the things that she were doing. So Neighborly's really a nice thing to have.
Wonderful.
Um, so she loved her cake. They had a nice time. Some of the adults got carried away at the event, and my oldest two daughters are at odds now, as me and the same one, Jasmine, was at odds about the ways that she was living in the house and the things that she was doing. And
So
they
remind
tried
some
to,
of our audiences because they don't know. I'm not.
okay, so Jasmine had stayed with me for a while. She has five babies. Uh, the correct ages is 11, 10, 7, 4, and 11, 10, 7, 4, and 2.
Wow. That's a
So
lot of work. That's a lot of work just saying it.
that's a lot of work. And that's what it is because you have to know that wherever you go, you're going to have to be responsible for your children. Okay. It doesn't matter where they play, pick up. It doesn't matter where they eat, wipe up. If you work something out where you cook and they do dishes, keep up to your part. And if it's vice versa, say what you're going to do and do it. Don't just expect somebody else to do that.
Of
Like
course.
that's a part of being responsible and being 28 years old. So, long story short, they my daughter Whitney is an alcoholic, she fully admits it, and when she starts drinking, it all comes out. So rather than have her spoil the party, I had taken her back to her house and, had Montez, he was manning the door because kids pack pistols these days. They're not playing. Like, you're not bringing in no liquor, you're not bringing in no nothing.
Mhm.
And when I had to do the door, I would see these girls, like, I'm very aware, like hyper vigilant when it comes to stuff like that, because A, I don't like the dark. B, I don't like it all that in and out. But they would come in with cups, go out and try to come back with full cups. And
Mhm.
I'm taking them right off the block because I watched you sign your name and your age. No, you're not. You come here to dance, have fun, you know. So, just being torn in between all of that, my oldest daughter saying, Jasmine, Jasmine's calling herself a Christian and she's sending nasty pictures all over across the nation for money, and Jasmine saying, you're drunk, and but I didn't tell them that they was both telling me this. I was saying, oh, like I had heard it for the first time. And, you know, they have to grow up. They're sisters. And, when I picked my one word last year, it was family as a verb. And I drove myself crazy thinking about how family's supposed to act. And we are all we have. My dad's side of the family has disowned me because I crossed the color barrier. Okay.
Right.
My
You're
mom's
married to
side,
an African American and have children and grandchildren of that descent as well. So that's
yep,
the problem on the rift on the father's side. Now, on the mother's side, how's that going?
there's no one left. So literally, me and my 6 children and their children and Whitney's spouse is all there is. Nobody's coming for us. Nobody's coming to check on us. Nobody's coming to help us unless we reach out and advocate and get some help ourselves.
But you're the matriarch. So
I am.
it
And so
starts
I
with
have to
you.
lead by example. See, they like to keep me back in my past where, oh, you weren't there and this and that. Okay. And guess what? At the rate you're going, you're trying to get me back to where I'm not going to be there again. And that's not going to happen.
You're threatening that or you really mean that? Which is it?
No, I really mean that. I'm not willing to compromise my safety and my serenity for that again. I learned to
That's a very strong stance to take. Let's take a qualified stance to that if you want. We can look at that again. I'd love to come back to that point.
yeah.
Sometimes we say things and you mean them. I know you mean them. I say things to mean in the moment, but it's oftentimes, Bobbi, because you're a very pragmatic human, it's oftentimes out of context. Because in one sentence, you say that you're it. You're the matriarch of the hierarchical understanding of family from mother to grandmother. And soon they'll have kids in 10 or 15 years. When they have children, then you'll be the great grandmother. And that's the only lineage you have left. So if you stop, everything else stops, so to speak. No one can take up the mantle like you. Not yet, anyway. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Family being your verb or your word used as a verb last year. What's your one word this year?
Compassion.
Okay, so family and compassion, your two words. And normally you play off the previous year with your existing year. So for those of you out there who don't know that when you have a one word, and Bobbi and most of our volunteers at Abuse Refuge or Norm Therapy adopt a new word every year that they've been with us, and oftentimes on their own, even after they leave, um, to project their lives forward and live by that word as best they can. Compassion is a fantastic word to have because you probably in your life weren't the most compassionate human being. Uh,
No.
and so
And I've
that was,
changed my word twice. First one I picked and then I changed it. Second one I picked and I changed it because I drove myself batshit crazy with it.
trying to
My
keep up
first
to it.
word for this year was communication. That was not a good one because it was all about how I expected my expectations of communication was not
Mhm.
working. So I have to practice compassion in ways that, even if it is my thinking of how things should be and it's not, to be very compassionate, knowing that it might not be my way, but it's somebody else's way and it's their normal. and just
Right.
to be loving and try to love someone and be kind through that. That's all I know how to do.
Well, that's a wonderful stake of claim. I mean, to claim that stake and put that in the ground and say, this is my patch of land I'm gonna, pan for gold in. That's a great place to be. But I want to get back to your statement. You said you're just not gonna have it in other ways. Sometimes when we say those things, let me ask you a question. When you're children and you're at odds with them, are they talking to you or at you?
They're not talking at all.
Okay. So they're silent.
God.
Okay. So they give you the cold shoulder treatment.
Until they need something
And then they talk to you or at you. Which one?
to me and
Okay.
at me.
Okay. So I guess you would say they talk at you when they're not interested in what you have to say. They talk to you
Correct.
when they're interested in what you can do.
Correct.
Do they,
Or
so I'm sorry.
they'll talk to me long enough to find out if I'm going to do it, but see, along with they know that I'm going to help out in some way, I still am going to have something to say about it.
No, and I
And then
think that's fair.
it becomes an at me, and I have to be the one to de-escalate myself because it's not worth the upset when I know what part I'm going to play. I know how much I'm going to give because I have to be flexible with them because you don't what I've learned is you don't win in an ultimatum.
No,
You don't.
never.
Never.
Ultimatums always put you in a bad place. You'll have to do something after that. But I want to
Yeah.
get back to the to and at for just a certain purpose. Your grandchildren, you've witnessed them interact with their parents, your children.
Yes.
Tell me something. Do they talk to their parents or at them?
I would say that they both have very unhealthy relationships, and I really couldn't tell you. I
Okay.
know that I have had to go get my granddaughter Kayana and
Mhm.
have her in my home away from her mother from domestic violence. And I know that I have witnessed Jasmine, what I would call abuse and isolation for her children,
Mhm.
where they weren't allowed to talk at all or have feelings of their own. And so
That must
that
be
could
one
be a
heck of a journey for you to travel on every day with these kids. To
yeah,
watch
it is
them, to watch them.
because I want them to be able to see me interact with their mothers the way that they should be interacting with their mothers.
Absolutely.
And
But
so all I
what I'm
yeah,
more
go ahead.
interested in this case, and I'm gonna come right back to that. I think this is a good line of conversation. Um, I believe that when children are prohibited to have a personality or to grow or to speak for themselves or to, you know, how when you walk up to someone and you say, "Hey, how are you doing? Beautiful child you have." And you go, "Thank you." And then they'll ask you, "What's her name?" And you'll say something because you're Bobby, you'll say something, ask her, she'll tell you. Am I correct?
Yeah.
That's her own voice. This is your personality in her. But when her parents, let's say, from what you just said, domestic violence, normally they will take away that child's voice because they want things done their way, and they will even hurt that child if it's not done their way. This is
That's
the
my daughter
out
Whitney.
exactly. And I wanted to clear that up before I went on to the next line of conversation with you. Abuse isn't just let's say you abuse the family because you were not there. They
Yeah.
find that as an affront or as an insult or a hurt or pain to them that you weren't there. So that abused them in their brain housing group to function without you and not to be there in those interesting times. All of a sudden, you're there and you realize the error of your ways. And you say, I'm going to make my one word family as a verb. We're going to family this right, as a verb, you know, and that's a tall order. That's not even by any stretch of the imagination easy for even the best of families with all the resources and every kind of accoutrement that goes with life. They have it, yet it's still hard. They say what the hell you go through on earth is the easy part. It's the living on earth is hard because once you go through it, you still got to live. And I think that abuse started with you. Forgive me. I don't think
Yeah.
it's your fault per se, but you do have some blame in it. So,
Yes.
and then you come back and you take your size sevens, I'm thinking, or sixes or whatever shoe size you're wearing, and then you just step right off
10.
of 10, size 10. Oh, there we go. Then you just
I'm
take
I'm
this.
tall. I'm 5'10".
Okay, got it. Got it. Got it. So
I
you,
would look funny with some little ass feet.
oh, you would. But I'm just saying, trying to be cute and dainty. All right.
Yeah.
So, we take that 10 and you come back into a place where you have adults who have children, who have livelihoods, who are now existing without you, living in some ways without you, but destroying one another without you. And you come back and you're now that focal point, the head of the family. You walk right in it, take your size 10s and start sticking it up some butts and say, okay, this is where we're going to do it. I'm going to be the living, breathing example. Okay. Was that easy to do, Bobbi?
No, it wasn't.
Tell us about that. Tell us about it.
There comes a point in time. I had been in and out of the institution so many different times, and for
You say
just
institution, what do you mean for our new guests who are watching this?
prison,
Okay.
county jails, hospitals. Uh, been there and done it all my whole entire life.
I understand.
Starting at the age of 16 up and until I think my last trip was into a hospital was maybe 35, and then 2017 was my last incarceration.
Good. Been a while.
Yeah. So, you know, what I do hear my children say is that when I was out, I was there physically, not emotionally. I was a fixer, a doer, a pay it. So like I've said in previous sessions, I take responsibility because I never made my children earn or know the value of a dollar. I always had their rooms cleaned, the laundry done. I always paid because I was not doing things the right way, and I would have someone to come in and do it for them.
Mhm.
So I I can only take that on for so long because when you know better, you do better. And I have told you better, and I have showed you better, and you're still not getting it. Therefore, it's no longer on my hands. All I can continue to do is lead by example. I've said things, like I'm not ever going back to prison, and I went back, and I went back, and I went back, and I got violated, and I had a dirty year, and then, and it was a never-ending cycle. So
Revolving movie.
yeah, so it had to take some time for them to see me doing well, and I still struggle with them not believing me sometimes, you know?
How did that make you feel when you are trying your best and struggling and trying to do the right thing based on the knowledge that you had at the time? How did it make you feel when they didn't believe it was real?
It hurt my feelings. It hurt my feelings, but I didn't show it or I didn't tell it. I just sucked it up. Now I voice it in a constructive way,
I
you
was going to
know?
ask you, do you think that was unhealthy to just suck it up? Sometimes you should
No,
just share it and have a
no.
conversation about it. Have
Yeah,
that.
now we do. And see, there's each one of my children have such a piece of me in them that it's really it's not funny, but it's like my daughter Whitney, she's an extrovert. She is going, you're going to know when something's wrong with her because she is going to. Jasmine is just the opposite. She's a lot like me. Keep it all in, keep it all in, wear this face, got it all together, and it's clearly don't. Okay. William, a little bit of mix of both. Robert just smiles and, hey, whatever, you don't care, and I've had a mix of all of my children, even the little ones that I don't have custody of.
Mhm.
are all a lot like me.
From your first marriage first relationship where you had two kids and your husband died,
Yes.
was
Well,
killed.
we just a significant other. We weren't married,
Right. Okay. Well, it's okay.
but
In some countries I travel, you don't even need to have a piece of paper, and you're called wife and husband. So, they're interchangeable, especially when you have children and a relationship. Now, how
yeah,
was he killed again? He was killed in.
murdered. He was murdered in our home in 2014.
Okay.
Yep.
That was truly devastating to the kids, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, and they were littler. They were little. I mean, Chelsea's 15 now, and Leroy is 12. So
Hurts. Are you
yeah,
petitioning to get them back now?
yep. I just got a paper in the mail. So here's tricky courts for you. William and Robert. Okay, at one point I had a dependency case because, of course, I was in prison, and
Hmm.
so they were dependent children, through the courts.
Hmm.
William and Robert wasn't who I wrote about. And I had the right numbers. And so I got a letter back just today in the mail that said, William and Robert are of age now, and we have no jurisdiction over these children, blah, 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 blah. That's not the ones that I wrote you about.
And they know that. Are you
I
saying?
was specific with Chelsea and Leroy and their dependency numbers. Yes. So now I'm going to call them. I'm not even going to write them anymore.
So that you
So
think
that way
he's been
there's,
given a runaround?
oh, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Because that's a fight that I'm prepared to fight now. You know, like those are mine. I had those babies.
I know. I know. So what's the normal procedure?
Well, I'll go to court and she'll be in contempt of court for taking them out of A, not giving my visitation, which is court ordered.
Hmm.
B, taking them out of jurisdiction of Ohio to a whole nother state across the country
Without your sign off.
without it. Yeah, you have to get the judge to say it's in the child's best interest. So you
They've
mean
not
to
done that.
tell me that for the past 4 years, I've had visitation every weekend or every other weekend, but there was a time after my mom passed where it was just phone calls because I didn't want to see me falling apart,
Hmm.
and going into a depression when my mom passed. And that was okay. Like they understood, and it was mutual.
It was
They
what you
we
had to
found
do at the time to just move forward. I
Yep,
understand.
yep. Got them involved in some sports and things to keep them occupied. And not to say that I didn't visit them at all because they did come sometimes, you know,
Hmm.
and it just wasn't as often as it was.
Well, let me ask you one more question about that before I go into another topic. Um,
Yeah.
Using family as a verb and compassion as well, how are you treating yourself as the head of the family? Matriarchal speaking, of course. How- As the mother of the family, how are you treating yourself?
Well, I'm tanning. That's about all I'm doing for myself right now.
Tanning, like laying in a tanning bed, tanning kind of
That's
thing?
it. That's it. And
Okay.
and and I haven't really been doing a whole lot of that because I've been working and going to school. And this is I dedicated that 16 week. That's going to pay off in the end. And that's what I try to get my husband to see is that it's not forever. Like I have to work. He's got a job doing the same job as I am at the other branch.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that.
We can't work at the same branch, but they're willing to give him a try as a case manager at the other location.
I understand.
So I'm eager for him because he also likes to do case management. He
Well,
likes that.
I'm glad. Two incomes
Yep.
in one household with all
Yep.
those people there. I mean, it's necessary, I think. Is
Yeah.
there something you need to do? Because I can see stuff moving around.
No, that was the dog. The dog
Okay.
coming in
That's a
and
big dog if it's that big.
well, he's opening the door, and
Okay.
my husband was pulling it back shut.
Okay. I was like, good Lord, kind of that's a huge dog. Um,
Yeah.
but tell me this. Back to your daughter, who doesn't really take care of the household chores. in the manner that you want her to. Tell us, why do you think she, and be specifically like, of course, Bobbi, why is she this way?
Well, like I said, I always paid for her to get it done. She's not ever had a clean home for as far as I've been able to see. When I was out and see, she would always hide from me. She would
Mhm.
hide from me because, but this is the one that I left the day after I left and went to prison. She started her menstruation. I didn't get to tell her how. She was only 10.
Mhm.
Like there was a lot of things that I didn't get to tell her that she had to learn on her own. Hence the reason I'm assuming she's got 5 babies, but she got to know how they get here by now, and a lot of it followed through, not having a child to put it through college or put them through college. And so they can learn to get a trade, but to prove my love for a man. I think it was a 6 word life story we had to do when I was in treatment one time. And mine was little lost girl looking for love.
Wow, that's a deep grouping of words.
Yeah. And that was something that it didn't take me long to think about it. With all of the other work that I was doing, like that's been me my whole life.
But now you're no longer lost, Bobbi.
No, I'm not
Lost.
lost.
Okay. You're a lot of things. Sometimes you take it on the chin like a little girl, but you give it too like a grown woman. That little lost girl looking for love, I hope I said it right. That, that could have been the baseline for who you were before. But just
Yeah.
the progress I've seen and the fantastic results you have achieved with your family, even though it's sometimes dysfunctional, because all families are.
Oh,
But what you're not seeing, I think, but that statement, I would hold that forever because that's a journey you've been on all the way till today. And I would be proud of that if I were you. But that little lost girl did something about it. You
yeah, that
act,
was
I've watched
2017.
exactly. So, but to be a little girl lost is frightening. It is.
It is.
You know what? I remember saying when I was about 7 or 8, I was on a bicycle and I was riding down the street and I was looking up at the trees. And then I just kept riding and I kept looking down and I said, wait a minute, where the heck am I? And I was actually lost, physically lost. I had never been to this part of my own neighborhood in the south side of Chicago. And then all of a sudden, I said to myself in that moment, and it has stuck with me my entire life. I said, if I find my way out of this, I'll never get lost again. Now you have found your way out of that kind of process where you are constantly, like you said, you were there physically, but not mentally, emotionally. You weren't there spiritually. You were just there in the physical embodiment of going through the motions of being a mom. Now you're not doing that. That's a monumental task. You know how many dead people today?
The measuring stick.
Yeah. I mean, dead people in cemeteries today. The cemeteries are full of people who couldn't do what you just said. That you could measure yourself from that lost little girl all the way till today and then take accountability. That's something most people don't do. They try to take responsibility, but they don't want to be accountable for what they're responsible for. Like, yes, I take responsibility. I'm now the head of the household, but I'm not accountable for how I made my daughter floppy or how I made my son um, violent. Not that that's the case, but on and on and on, how people are changed because you weren't there. You took
Or even
responsibility.
autistic. I
Yeah,
believe that I had something to do with that by the drugs that I ingested
yeah,
early on.
there you go. Now, before and see that's a prequel to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The drugs you ingested in your system growing up, of course, that probably affected him. We don't know that for sure, but it's highly likely that that's the case. And if
Yeah.
that is the case, you feel a debt to your son. Of course you do. Of course you feel a debt owed to him to take care of him the rest of his life, to make sure he gets the same advantages and chances that everyone else gets, and that he's treated in a respectful and understood manner. Of course you want that. That's a burden you put on yourself, because had you not been doing drugs, and let's say he was still autistic, let's say he still came out autistic, and you weren't doing drugs or alcohol or anything else, then you would still have that same responsibility to shoulder.
Yeah.
So in either case, it's normal what you're doing. You're not doing anything wrong per se, insofar as that is concerned, other than acknowledging accountability, that had it not been for what you did, probably he would have been different. And
Or could
then
have been.
taking responsibility. Well, yeah, yes. That's why I said possibility, potentially. But then on the same side, you recognize that if you did nothing wrong back then, he came out autistic, you would still do the same thing. You would burden yourself with the understanding for the rest of your life that this is my child. I am going to make sure he has this, that, and the other, school, people, affection, understanding, education, just like everyone else.
Yep.
That's not a bad thing to do. So sometimes when you look at your life and you say you're not going to put up with it, it all goes back to that statement that we just had, this little round robin. But when you say that you're not going to put up with it anymore, I never believe that. I can never believe it in life, because one thing you are a rock. You are a rock, and your children know it. You get fed up with it. Yes, you do. They are a lot to deal with. Yes, they are. Even if it was just 2 kids and each two had 2 kids, that's a lot. You got 5 or 6 with 10 kids. So that's a lot in one household. That's a lot of people. And then you're petitioning for 2 more. Can you handle it?
Yeah. I mean, right now, Jasmine and her 5 aren't here. So
Okay.
in this household alone is me, my husband, and Robert and William, which are the twins,
Okay.
and the dogs.
And then the
And
two
so
petitions.
Robert now has a level 3 case manager who will meet with him weekly
Mhm.
and get him involved in some things, because my work hours are ridiculous right now with school. So I don't have time to be his case manager, nor do I want to be. I just want to be his mom. I was the case manager
Rightfully so.
as I was out and was able to, you know.
But
So
those
I
case
just
manager skills come in handy as a mom. I mean, you picked up
oh
skills how to deal with people being a case manager.
yeah.
And see, and one of the things Montes shared with us in one of his interviews, your husband, is that you said, I am not going to be your case manager. Well, the role you play as a
Counselor.
mom and a wife is nothing but a case manager, if you ask me.
I don't want to be his counselor or
I
a psychologist or no. His From his perspective, his angle is that how he was raised, his grandma and grandpa was everything to each other.
everybody, yes.
I don't want that. I want my own outlet. I want him to have his own outlet. And then if is there ever a chance that we can have an outlet together, that's great. But if not, I will stay in therapy for the rest of my life.
You feel comfortable saying that, really, Bobby?
Yeah, truly.
Well, maybe you have to give a little to get some more. Sometimes, maybe today you feel this way, but one thing I tell people about life, if it hasn't happened to you, just wait. It will.
It will.
Yeah, it will. In the cemetery, there's a guy dying right now on his deathbed somewhere in the world who don't understand what you just said, has no clue about staying in his lane, even on his deathbed. Your experiential knowledge is tantamount to that of old time Greek goddess. You just were involved in several layers of deity in your family, in your prisons, in your institutions. You were at the top of the food chain everywhere you went. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Now, being at the top of the food chain and then being rather emotionless in the earlier part of your life. And that was kind of beaten out of you physically, sexually, from the rapes and all of that, prison wise. It was kind of destroyed within you. So you couldn't really package it in a way where you could present yourself to the world. A lot of things were prohibited to you. Living is hard. It's very
Yeah,
hard.
and
You didn't
nothing
give it back.
nothing surprised me. Like
Exactly. Exactly.
nothing really surprises me much anymore still.
Do you think that's healthy?
I don't think it's healthy. Well, maybe it is healthy. I don't know. I don't know what I think it is, but I just know that I've never been an affectionate person.
I think it's rather disconnected.
Yeah, maybe so, because I can disconnect in flat
I've watched you.
between 5 seconds.
I've watched you do it just like that. And listen, Bobbi, you have something most people wish they had: mental control. You have a great deal of faculty. You can control yourself. Whether you do or not is a whole nother conversation, but most of the time you can control yourself. You can turn yourself on and off pretty much at will, to the emotional side, the actionable side, to the argumentative or confrontational side. You could just turn yourself right off. Very few people can do that. There are people in the world dying to learn how to just shut themselves away from that which hurts them. You get hurt, but you just turn that switch. Watch you do it. Your husband cleans
That's
up.
a long, hard lesson learned. I don't even know how I do it. I don't even know that I'm doing it.
Well, once you're beaten down enough in life, you can do it. It's like, forgive this, because it's a black-white thing, especially you having a black husband. I'll say this to you. It's that slave mentality. Slaves used to just sit around idle for weeks and days and months, only to be beaten or go out in the cotton field or whatever that chore was. And that left a sense of less than human. You've been beaten like that. I'm not going to compare you to slaves, but your life has been one downtrodden beat or beat down. And
Yeah.
you've gotten up every single time. And it didn't matter how well you got up most of the time. You still were beaten right back down. And if they weren't beating you down, you were beating you down. So that's why you can do it. Once, we used to plan all these missions in special forces. Every time we have a mission, we do our brief backs and all this kind of stuff. All that goes out the window once the first bullet flies. Once you hear the first crack, everything else goes out the window. Now, you try to keep that intention going, like we're intending to get this objective, we're intending to rescue a person, we're intending to do something. They used to call it the commander's intent some years later. Yeah, but early on special forces, they didn't call it that. But I'll just say this to you, and for your own understanding, once you've been beaten down, you've been through something, you can make decisions. But what you should try to do, instead of turn off, you should try to turn on. You should really empathize with the people around you, because you're hard to reach. You're not easy. I wish you were, but you are a tough cookie. I think I've said this about you many times. And some people are intimidated by that, so they feel they have to step up to you. Because they're intimidated, they know you'll just shut down and, hey, this is all you get. I think you've done that a few times. That
Well, I
intimidates.
think I just did that with my daughters today because, see, they both came last night to the hotel, and my daughter Whitney, the extrovert, she says, "Mom, you're real hard to deal with." And I say, "Well, I think once that you and Jasmine understand that I'm the mom and you're the daughters and you don't tell me what to do, I'll be easier to get along with." Because, see, they try to run my life.
True.
And I barely take suggestions, let alone one of my children telling me what I'm going to do or what I'm not going to do. I don't like that.
Can
That's,
I make a suggestion? Can I
goes
make
back
a
to the ultimatum.
suggestion? May I make a suggestion to you?
Yeah,
This is
I
what
take suggestions from
okay.
you.
Okay, good. I want to say this because you're in such a good place with your people. All your kids, your grandkids, your cousins, or whomever else is going to be influenced by you. You're in a good place. It's just kind of rocky road, when you say to people, I'm the mom or you're the daughter, that role denotes a sense of responsibility to that role. It just does. So a mom is supposed to be the matriarch and respected and also trusted. The daughters are supposed to be an extension of that matriarchy, and they should be trusted and respected. Trusted and respected. So as if there's no respect coming from them to you, then it's incumbent upon you to show them what respect looks like, because all things in the family starts with you. All things. Remember
Well,
what I
how do
said?
I measure that? How do I measure that? Because I feel like I do that.
No, I think you do in your own way. And that's, listen, we're only a sum of our experiences. That's all we are,
Yeah.
the sum of our experiences. If you don't have the experience, I'm not talking about humility and humble and all that. I've never agreed when people say be humble. I don't believe in that. What I believe in is say what you mean and mean what you say and be nice about it. That's it. Okay. When you humble yourself, sometimes people view humility as weakness, and they will take advantage of it.
Mhm.
Yes, that's how the world is. But we like these platitudes of telling people, oh no, just be humble and nice and everything's gonna be turn the other cheek. Even they quote the Bible, turn the other cheek. Well, what they don't realize, if you continue to read that Bible verse, it says turn the other cheek and hold on to your sheath where your knife is. I'm gonna turn my cheek, but I'm gonna cut you next. It does. People don't talk about that latter part of that verse. They just talk about the first part, the humble and turn your cheek. Well, I'll turn my cheek, but I will pull out my sheath, and that's what you do. That's okay. But here's the thing: if you ever tell, like my children, um, I could tell you long stories about this, but I'll just quick one quick thing. I will never say to my children ever, will never have said, because I'm your father, to nothing, because that doesn't mean anything. If I say, you do this, why? Because I'm your father. What does that mean? You're telling me as a child that because you're you, I'm supposed to do that. No, it doesn't work that way. And that's what most of us get hung up on. We say to our children, I told you to do this. Why? I'm your mother. Don't question me. That's right. But if you instead would say, what I'd like for you to do is this, and this is why. Not because I'm your mother, but because it's clean and because it's organized and because your rooms and your children are well kept and because you can now eliminate disease in some parts of your home. That's why you should clean. When you say, because I'm your mother and I'm telling you to do this and you're going to respect me, whether you like it or not, all you're telling them is how to treat their children because they're learning that from you. They're
Yeah,
learning.
no, I don't tell them that. I don't say that.
Good, 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 good.
I don't
But
say that.
the
But
responsibility.
what I did tell them yesterday was like, you need to figure out that you're not my mother.
Right.
And
And
I
that's
meant and I
that
meant
kind
that
of
though.
see
I
that
meant
kind
that.
of control. I don't think that's something that anyone should put up with, whether your children, uh, I guess, step up to you and try to control the direction or the uh, the leadership in your family. You know, this is not, we're
It's
not
it's ebb
packs
and
of wild
flow.
animals.
It's ebb and flow,
Mhm.
you know, and it's got to be that way. But
We're
there's
not
a
packs of
level
wild
of
animals. We're
yeah.
not exactly.
I'm not going to just tolerate anything,
You
not
shouldn't.
from my children, especially.
You shouldn't. But I want to make one last point about that, just for your own benefit. And that is, people do that to you because they think they can get away with it. They're testing you. That's all. They have
Yeah.
to poke your chest out, they have to poke theirs out too and test you. That's all they want to do is figure out what they can get away with. And I think you're smart by not letting them get away with that, where they're going to insult and or disrespect you or lead your life for you or tell you how to lead you. I think that's very and highly disrespectful. Now, if they're making suggestions that you should do this or that or the other to make your life more amenable.
easier or better or
Exactly.
beneficial.
That's different. That's
Yeah,
different. You see, you know the
agree.
difference. You just took my words out of my mouth. You know the difference, but they're not doing that, is what you're saying.
No.
They're just telling you what to do, and you just better go along with it because that's the program.
They're treating me like I am their high school friend and two's company and three's a crowd. Not falling for it.
Biggest mistake parents ever make is being friends with their children. That's the
I am
biggest
not
mistake
their
they'll ever make.
friend.
Exactly.
I am not their friend. I was my daughter's friend, my oldest daughter's friend, and she ended up pregnant at 13. I'm not your friend.
Well, I
And it's
think you
not
did a
ever
good
too
job.
old. It's not ever too late to change that.
Yours is to be a parent, not a
That's
friend.
it.
And if you happen to be nice while you're doing it and respectful to them while you're doing it, that's good. But yours is to lead and to emulate, and well, from which they should emulate you. And also, yours is to set the example. Even though you didn't have the better angels with you early on in life, they seem to be with you now, moving you in that direction. And that's a good thing. But you're doing it the right way. And it's tough. It's hard to look somebody in the face and say no. Somebody you really want to have it, but they're not ready for it. Or someone who wants to control your life and you're just not having that conversation and they think you should. It's hard convincing them otherwise, but it's not
Yeah.
impossible. Tell me something. How are you and your husband doing?
Well, I tell you this, if I feel fear to the point that I feel like that I'm going to be harmed, I will call the police. And I understand that he has not had good experiences with the police, but he's got to understand that I haven't had good experiences with people hurting me either. So I will
That's
take it
fair.
up until a point when if you physically harm me, we're going to have an issue. And
Well,
I've made that clear. And I've made a statement.
self-preservation is number one. I understand that.
Yeah. I'm not in it for that. And we've had conversations since then, and we've been able to talk through some things that we weren't able to talk through the night that the big argument happened.
Mhm.
But when I call out for somebody, I need some kind of help. And
Yeah, I
that
think you're
was the
within your
step
right to
right
do that.
before
Absolutely.
you know, and because there wasn't any other way around it. My next step was something I probably would have regretted, you
Well,
know?
I think that if in fact you are in physical danger, you should call the police. I don't think that should be any kind of hesitation involved with it. Never. But I also think that sometimes the de-escalation mode that neither of you sometimes use when it's most advantageous to you, I think that causes the problem of even having to have physical violence or whatever. One of the things I can tell you about your husband in interviewing him is he cares much about what people think of him. But more than
I
any,
told you this in the beginning.
no,
I
no,
give
I
no,
know.
I have none of these to give. You know what that means? I don't
I,
care.
I understand.
And he does.
He
And
does.
that's
He cares about what other people think of, but I wanted to continue to say, but he most cares about what you think of him. That I have interviewed the hell out of him over, and he cares so much to have your respect and your
he's got it.
no, no, hold on, let me finish. He wants not only your respect, but he wants you, I don't want to say put up with him, but to accept that he has flaws and not shove them down his throat. Like he knows you have flaws and continually shoves them down your throat. If you're busy getting that last lick in, he's busy getting the last lick in. The licks never stop. The fighting continues and it never gets better. You have a lot more experience at this than he does of stopping that situation and changing course. Familiarity breeds content and contempt. So you're very good because you love your husband. He's the best thing since toast sometimes. And you guys get along well and you're like two peas in a pod. And then you're not. And then there's this contempt for him, this disdain, this dislike, this disrespect for him that I've witnessed. And there's no one on the planet. I'm not casting blame on you. I just want to make something clear. There's no one on the planet that he wants the respect from more. He wants your support from than anything else, or the support from anything else than you. You are the most precious prize of life. I see it. And so when you say something that emasculates him or denigrates him or puts him down into a downtrodden mode, he becomes a shell of himself. Just to let you know, he becomes less than a man, because the most important person in the world to him, you just told him he was.
But the part he's not telling is he's getting caught in his own bullshit.
That's
He's
good.
getting caught in lies. He's getting caught in all kind of webs, and he tries to call
out. You should not
out.
let him get away with any of that. I
don't.
agree. Yeah, but here's a way to do it.
But it plants seeds in my mind, and he's responsible for the planting of them.
You're right. You're right. Listen, I agree with you. That's not the part I'm opposed to. I think you should confront him right to his face when there's an issue and have a sit down and clear it out and get the truth out of that circumstance. There's nothing wrong with that.
Never going to happen.
However, how you get there, you said never going to happen. I beg to differ. What I think will happen is over time, using some of the techniques we've talked about and you've learned, and you give a person who has no experience telling the truth. He's been in prison most of his adult life. He has no experience telling the truth, being straightforward, having a woman around him who's much smarter at what he does, at what you do, than what he is at what he does. Now, he's going to one day be just as smart as you about it, but there's this learning curve and experience curve he's not endeavored. He's never been on that path. So he's starting something that you've already been on the path of. So it's not a place of saying that you are smarter than he is, but you have a lot more knowledge and a lot more experience in this area of finding a truce, being patient, letting him lie. I always tell people in a session, one of the things I love about you is that you're just brutally honest. I love this about you. But when people are lying to me in a session and I know they're lying, I let them lie. Bobbi, I let them lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. I keep a track. I really keep a track of everything. Why do I let them lie? Because once they get all their lies out, or as many as they can get, and they think they got away with them, now I have something to work with. I know their lies. I know where they've gone down this path and they've hidden. I know where they hid that over here. I know what they're obfuscating or hiding over there. I know, because I let them lie. When you really are in a conversation with your husband or anybody and they're lying right to your face, let them. It's okay to lie. But people, no, you got to listen. I want you to really understand this. It's normal. People lie all the time for no apparent reason. They just lie. The world is this way. Most people tell a few lies every day, and they don't even know why. I'd say 95% of the people on the planet lie for no apparent reason. So it's normal to lie. They lie to avoid embarrassment. They lie to avoid blame. They lie to protect somebody. They lie to protect themselves. They lie for a variety of reasons. People do, and it's so normal. But we treat people like pariah. We treat people like the scum of the earth when they lie, when we ourselves lie. This is how life is. So you being more mature in the area of not only detecting lies, but also knowing how to address those lies once they've been detected. You know how.
Well, it's called you can't bullshit the bullshitter, because I've been there and done that.
And that's good that you can't, but don't let them always know that they can't. Let them get the lie.
My face can't do that. I'm not there yet. I don't know what kind of
I can't force you.
I can do to work on that, but
There's no assignment. It's just
like
called
I
living.
cannot sit and just let somebody tell me something that I know 100%, not 99.5 or 8%, without a shadow of a doubt, I know differently.
Practice, Bobby. It takes practice. It's not about whether I'm 100% sure you're telling me the truth right now. I'm still going to keep practicing back and forth, making sure we maintain truth as long as you and I are in that conversation. 100% I know that I can depend on most of the things that come out of your mouth, more so than your husband. He is more emotional than you are. Did you know that? Yes,
He
he
was
is.
raised by
He is.
women.
And that's the biggest problem with men these days. 54% of all marriages are in divorce and raised by women. And these young men are taking, instead of hey, son, come over here and sit on my knee and let's talk and let's go fishing and let's go. Okay, you hit your knee, no problem. Get up, let's walk with me. We'll be okay.
Yeah, that was me.
Exactly.
So I was raised by men, really.
Go outside. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Don't come back till 6 p.m. It was like that. I was raised as well. So you grew up being a little man, ready to become a big man, as you move along. A lot of guys who are raised by their grandmother or their mother are more emotionally connected. That's not to say that they're weak. It's not to say that they're wrong, but it is to say that when one old prisoner said to the young prisoner when asked, why were there so many men in prison, said the same thing you just said, because a lot of these young kids are raised by women, and instead of thinking about getting the gun and shooting somebody and saying, no, that's not a good idea, put it back in their holster and keep going. Instead of thinking about it, they actually do it because they work with their emotions and they respond emotionally instead of pragmatically or logically. And I think that's been removed from a lot of families. Not in yours, because you play the role of man and woman sometimes. You really do. And that's intimidating to people, Bobby. It's intimidating. So you got to let go a little bit and just practice letting them lie and then parsing that lie a little bit, cutting through it instead of knocking it off the table and giving them nothing from behind which to hide. When you strip a person of their facade, that fakeness that they have, that lie that they're presenting to you, you've just told them that you have nothing left to hide behind. So I'm going to rip you to pieces. You're no longer protected with that lie. That's okay as a final understanding of that relationship, but not along the path. Along the path, you go, well, maybe I don't believe you went away to the circus, but I do believe the circus was in town. You get it? 90% of their lie is bad, but only beat up on 40% of it for now. And then tomorrow or the next time I come up, beat up on the other 20% and work your way all the way until you are 100% one-to-one with your liar, be it your husband, your kids, or whomever, or the person's trying to control you. Work a little bit at a time because they took years to come up with that lie and believe it to be true most of the time and believe it to be something that they need to live by or die by. That's the hill they're going to die on. They believe that. So you just ripping it from them, their whole protection system, let them lie. You know the truth. Just work your way backwards out of it. Just take a little bit at a time, unravel it for them, and more importantly, with them. Unravel their lives with them. And don't be so quick to anger or judgment because they're only lying because they think they can get away with it, number one. And number two, because they fear the consequence of being caught in that lie. And if you're at the other end of that consequence of being caught in that lie, they don't want to go through that. So give them an easier time with their lies. The most important thing is it's a lie. And then what do you do about it? Not how do you react to it. But anyway, we only got a couple of minutes left, and I'm enjoying the heck out of this
Man,
conversation, Bob. I'm going to miss you the next week because I got so many things I want to talk to you about. But I just want to be clear on something. I really think that you are an amazing human being. You've been through hell and high water on earth, backwards and forwards. And you made very strong decisions to be a strong woman and to do the right things. And I've never heard anyone say, I use family as a verb. I'm going to make this happen. Think about that. That was your choice to put it in that context. In the same way, you're not going to get it right that you're trying to manage the whole family. You're not going to get it right the first time around, but you keep trying, you keep practicing, and you will get it right. And they will remember, trust is very important that you understand is earned and learned. Trust and respect both are earned and learned. You have to teach them how to respect you by respecting them. You have to teach them how to trust you by trusting them, even if they fail. Let them fail. And when they time to get picked back up, be there. Don't say, I told you so. Say, listen, I got something else I want to tell you. Not that you would do that, but I'm just sharing that for the audience. Whenever you tell somebody, I told you so, or I was
That's
just
horrible.
doing this and that, oh, you just destroy them. So you can't do that. And I'm glad you recognize that. Anyway, I am going to I'm going to have to close out because we're going to be going over in a couple of seconds. So let me say this, and I do apologize. I want you to have a good week. But if you've enjoyed and got something out of today's session, please show your support by sharing this video, subscribing to our channel, and liking it, and write some comments. We really enjoy those. Our next norm therapy session is with Montez, Bobby's husband, and myself. It will be Tuesday, February 6th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, USA. Please go to goarrow.org, goaro.org, and normtherapy.com for more information, and sign up if you need sessions, or sign up if you would like to become a norm therapist. Bobbi, you're an amazing woman. I want you to
Thanks.
see your strength. Most women and men on the planet wish they had it. Now all you need to do is hone all those skills and put them in one place and start walking.
Harnessed it good.
Yeah. Okay. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Bobbi. I really
Uh,
enjoyed tonight.
I did too. Thank you so much.
All
See
right.
you
We'll talk
Sunday.
next week. Bye.